All right, welcome to Greek 1. This is Workbook 8. We are on Prepositions and ειμι. I'm looking at the parsing section. I'm going to do a few of these, but hopefully by now you should feel a little better about him. Let's just do 3. See, just to make sure you guys are getting the hang of it. Remember, we always do lexical form first. So number 1 is ημέρα. And so we write down the lexical form, which is ημέρα. ημέρα. And I'm going to put the article right next to it. ημέρα. And I like to work backwards because the gender you should know if you know the lexical form. So you have to know lexical form first. There's no getting away from that. And then if you know lexical form, then you should know the gender, which is feminine. Once you know that it's feminine, you should be able to look at the word you have here, the inflected word, and you should know what the ending is. So I've got an iota subscript below an alpha. The iota subscript tips me off that it is a dative. And because it's down here by itself, I know that it's singular, and now I've parsed it. I know that it's the dative singular feminine of ημέρα. And inflected, because it's a dative, usually you write 2. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be something else, but it's usually 2. It's singular, and so I know ημέρα means day, and so it means today. And maybe to the day would make more sense, so you're not thinking it's today, but to the day. Could be something like that. I don't know. All right, number 2 is thalasan. Thalasan. You got to know your vocab always to get it right. And thalassa is going to be sa. E thalassa. Or is it? Oh, yeah. It's E. I might get this wrong. Okay. E thalassa. I'm pretty sure it's feminine. Because of that ending there. And then, so now that we're know that it's a feminine ending, we're looking at the feminine. Now the ni tells you it's accusative singular. There we go. It's accusative singular feminine. So thalassa means sea or ocean. Sea or ocean, kind of body of water. And it's in the singular, so we're just going to put sea. So usually in the New Testament, it's talking about the Sea of Galilee. Okay. And I don't know why it's always the Sea of Galilee, because you got the whole Mediterranean there. So who knows? All right, number 3. Paraboles. Paraboles. All right. Paraboles comes from parabolos. Parabolos. And no, it's e parabola. Jeez, what am I doing here? All right, and that is going to be E. All right. So it is feminine. And so I look at this ending, and I see, the iota there. So that makes me think it's dative, and then it's hanging out with its friends. That makes me think it's plural. And so parabola is a parable, and dative is 2, and plural is many. So I put that all together, and it's 2 parables, or I might add the word to the parables. And that's how that works. Cool. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully you're doing good with parsing. And let's do some warm-ups together. En to evangelio. All right. En is in. We've been talking about prepositions. So, to evangelio, you're going to parse this. Evangelio is gospel, of course. And then it's in the dative and takes the object of the preposition and dative. So we're not going to say into the gospel. In this case, because the dative is attached to the preposition, you don't use the to for a dative, or the of if it's a genitive. This just tells you that it's attached to this preposition. So it's going to just be in the gospel. I'm adding the word the because we don't usually say in gospel. We say in the gospel just because that's how we say it in English. So that's how you would say that. Vita. Is tin ikian. Is tin ikian. All right. Is is a preposition that means into, and it's taking the accusative here. So ikian means house. Remember, there's two words for house, and this is the feminine ikia. And we look at these case endings, so hopefully now you can tell that it's accusative singular. But again, the accusative is just, this word is an accusative just because is takes its object of the preposition in the accusative, so it just means house. So as long as you know it means house, you're good. You're not actually translating it as an accusative. It's just into house. We don't say into house, we say into the house. Depending on context, it could be into a house. I don't know, but I'm just smoothing it out as best as I can from what I have here. Gama. Meta tu Ioannou. Meta tu Ioannou. All right. We already we looked at the example in the lecture video. Meta can mean with or after. Meta, if it is with a genitive, means with. Now I'm looking at this and I can already tell it's going to be a genitive, so I'm just going to say with. But you should be doing the same thing. You should be looking at the article here, tu Ioannou. You don't want to, again, with names, you can't trust the ending on the name because names do not inflect. So it's not going to have, the ni if this was accusative or whatever. The endings don't change on the names. So you have to look at the article. The article doesn't lie. The article is the genitive singular article. So we know that Ioannou is in the genitive. So meta means with, and Ioannou means John. And that's it, with John. Because it's a genitive, normally we would translate it of John or John's, but because it's in the genitive, not because it shows possession, so it's not of John, it's in the genitive just because that's how meta, when it means with, takes its object. So it's only in the genitive because that's how it works with the preposition. So you don't translate the of in that case. All right, let's move on to some harder ones. I'm gonna go to translation, and I'm gonna go to the harder ones here. Let's do number 10. All right, que is the conjunction. It just means and. O Jesus. All right, don't get this wrong. You can't get Jesus wrong. You have to know what that is. All right, it's Jesus. Now, Jesus, that ending might kind of looks like an accusative plural. So you might think, oh, Jesus is. But you look at the article does not lie. That is the nominative singular article. This is the subject of the sentence. So it's singular, Jesus singular. So it's and Jesus. Remember, the article doesn't always mean the. In this case, you wouldn't say and the Jesus. That doesn't make any sense. So it's just and Jesus. Meta can be with or after. So I'll take with, after, and it just depends if the object it's attached to is in the genitive or the accusative. So we look at the next word, ton mathiton. Okay, it means disciples. This hasn't shown up in your vocabulary word, so Mounts gives it to you. Ton mathiton. But you can look at the ending, and that's a genitive ending. So because this word, it follows the preposition is with the object in the genitive. Meta, when it's attached to a genitive, means with. So I'm going to get rid of all that. And we have with. Now, and this means disciples. With disciples. All right. Avtu comes from avtos. And it could be avtos can be any gender. It could be avtos, it could be avti, it could be avton or avto. So we look at the endings, and it could be anywhere on the chart, and this can either be masculine or neuter genitive. We know it's a genitive, so I'm just going to write of, but it can either be masculine, which would be of he or of him, or it could be of it. Now, just because we're talking about Jesus and disciples, it probably is more likely that it's Jesus' disciples, so it'd be of him or his disciples. But we'll just read the rest of the sentence and make sure we're right. I didn't read this whole sentence yet. Oops, my bad. Maybe I'll take time to read it now. Okay. Ki o Jesu meta ton mathidon avtu anerhorisen pros tin thalasan. One more time. Ke o Jesus meta ton mathidon avtu anerhorisen pros tin thalasan. All right, so now we've got that. We get to anehorisen, and we don't know this word yet, but it says right here. Anehorisen is pretty rare, actually. Like, I don't know if it's going to be in your vocab for this year. And it's he, she withdrew. So this is telling you that the subject can be masculine, feminine, or singular. Masculine, feminine, or neuter, singular. But in this case, we already know what the subject is because we have Jesus here in the nominative. So you don't have to write he or it. We already know the subject is Jesus. That's the nominative. So we're just going to say he withdrew, and that should be good enough. All right. Pros is to, towards, or with. And it's taking here the object of the preposition in the accusative. So even the accusative, it could be to, towards, or with. So that doesn't super nail it down for us. So we'll have to see from context. All right. So tin thalasan, that comes from thalassa. We just parsed that one a few minutes ago. It means see, and it's feminine. And so now we're looking at the ending here, and hopefully you can identify this as the accusative singular feminine. So this is it would be a direct object, but in this case, it's attached to pros. So you're not really translating it as an accusative or direct object. That's just see. Like the Sea of Galilee, probably. Okay, so we did word for word, but this is probably a hot mess. So we're going to read the whole sentence and see if we can smooth it out a little bit. And Jesus with the disciples of him, or with disciples of him. All right, we don't say any of that. And Jesus we would say the disciples, right? But first let's fix this. First of all, we don't say of him. We say his. So let's cut this out. And it's going to be with his disciples. He withdrew. We don't typically have to repeat the pronoun again. We already said it's Jesus. Jesus with his disciples withdrew works just fine. We don't have to write he again. And then pros can be to, towards, or with the sea. Towards the sea would be good, but really... most of us just say to, and we wouldn't say to see, we would say to the sea. You could say to see, sure, but this makes a little more sense. All right, let's look at it one more time. Jesus with his disciples withdrew to the sea. I would want to put with disciples towards the end, and Jesus withdrew to the sea with his disciples, but this is fine. So we'll just say that we're being very literal. Hey, look, there's one that I did right here. Let's just get rid of that for now. All right, let's hop to the hardest one. Let's go to 20. Let's see how we do here. All right, let's read it first. Exiden de Moses. Let's pause here. When you see this, it's called a diaeresis, these two dots, it's telling you that you're pronouncing each individual vowel and you're not combining them. So this is Moses. Τους Ιους Israel από θάλασσης ερύθρας. tells you it's a red. I didn't know what this word is. Erythras, so the Red Sea. Και ήγαγεν αυτούς εις την έρημον Sur. All right, let's do it one more time. Εξήρεν δε Μoses τους υιός Ισραήλ από θάλασσου Ερύθρας και ηγάγεν αυτούς εις την έρημον Sur. Okay, let's go one by one. We don't know what exceeding is. We haven't had that in vocabulary. So it tells us he, she, it took. We don't have a nominative yet, so we don't know if it's he, she, or it. I read the whole sentence, so I know it's probably going to be Moses, but we're going to do step by step here. So he, she, it took, and then it says de. De means and or but. And it is a post-positive. So even though it's a second word in the sentence, it's always translated first. So we're going to go back here and write and. And I'm just going to say it's and. I think that's fine. We don't have context, so we're not going to know. And he or she took, and we have Moses. Moses. Oh, Moises, sorry. I'm pronouncing that as a U. It's Moises. That makes a whole lot more sense. Moises. All right. We say Moses. And it is undeclinable. Remember, words that doesn't have the ending, so it won't tell us if it's in the nominative or not. So we're in a bit of a mystery here. We don't have an article. Usually there's an article that tells us if it's the subject or not. But I'm just going to go ahead and make an educated guess that Moses is the subject of the sentence. And this is going to change a few things. So I'm going to put Moses first. Subject comes first. Moises. And I'm going to say he's the subject of the sentence. So it's not going to be she or it. It's just going to be Moses took. So I'm doing this step by step. I'm talking aloud so you can kind of see, the rationale. I'm just guessing that Moses is the subject of the sentence. Maybe it's not. It could be anything else. But I'm making an educated guess from my experience that Moses is the subject of the sentence. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. So Moses took tous ius. So tous is the article, ius is the noun. So ius comes from ios, which means son. And if you look at that ending, that is the accusative plural. So it's going to be sons, and because it's accusative, it's the direct object of the sentence. That tells us it is the thing directly affected by the verb. So if Moses is taking something, he's taking sons. He took sons. That makes sense. He took sons. All right, what sons did he take? Israel. He took sons, Israel. Again, we're dealing with the same issue again. This is a good sentence because we're dealing with I don't know what happened there. Here we go. We're dealing with the issue that names are not, they're not declined. So we don't know what this is. Now, my guess is that this is probably going to be a genitive because of the phrase, the sons of Israel is so common in the Old Testament. So I would guess this is out of the Septuagint. In fact, if I were to click on this 12, that's just a proper name. Okay. He'll tell us at the end where this came from. And in fact, let's just do a second look at 20. Yep. It's at Exodus 15:22. Oops. And then he gave us I just cheated because it took me to the example. So I didn't mean to, but there it is. All right. But we know this is out of the Septuagint. This is out of the Old Testament. So the sons of Israel makes sense. So notice that you can't tell this is a genitive. So how will we know this is supposed to be of Israel? You don't. But context kind of tells you, okay, that probably has to be of Israel. The sons of Israel. That's a phrase in the Old Testament. Okay. Apo. Apo is a preposition and it means away from. Now, apo means away from when it's attached to a genitive, which I kind of skip forward here. Thalasis. Thalassa. Thalasis is the genitive singular feminine of thalassa. So this is actually away from sea. So I'm just going to write sea down. We'll fix this up later. It just says sea, away from sea. Erythras, of red. So it tells us it means of red. And if you look at our sentence, it's just going to be a hot mess. We're going to have to go back and clean that up a little bit. Que, you should know, is a conjunction and. When I should tell you now, anytime you see this, you should say que, and even also, namely. And even also, namely. Those are all the options for que. Normally it's and, but you want to get used to saying and even also, namely, because sometimes it'll mean also, and you just want to be ready for that. Okay, igagin, we don't know. It comes from igago, which means he, she, it led. I'm guessing that's Moses again, and Moses led. Avtus comes from avtos. You've already had that in your vocabulary, so you know it's a masculine word, but it could be, it's not a masculine word. It could be any gender, avtos, avti, avto. But in this case, this ending here is either masculine or neuter, and it is plural. In English, we don't make a distinction between masculine and neuter in the plural, so it's just they. And because it's accusative, it's them. He led them. It's accusative is being directly affected by the verb, right? So it's what's being led. So Moses led them, plural. Is means into. It is a preposition. It's always attached with the accusative. Tin irimon. I can't say this right. Erimon. Which it's a tough word. I don't know how you would know this, but this is wilderness. And then Sud is of Shur. I don't know how he expects you to know that this is wilderness of Shur. So maybe what I'll tell you is this: if you get stuck on a really, really tough one, Mounts usually, you can see he's got them all listed out here. He tries as much as possible to grab scripture. Now, sometimes, like this example, it's out of the Old Testament, so I'm guessing it's out of the Septuagint. But sometimes he'll put a little dash here, and he says, this means this exercise is made up. So every now and then he'll make up an exercise, and that's usually to teach you something that's without using an example from the Bible that's just way too hard, or that you can't find. So if you get stuck on something, you can kind of look at these references and you should be able to get to the answer, which we did. Moses took the sons of Israel away from Sea of Red and led them into wilderness of Shur. Let's smooth that out. Moses took the sons of Israel. We would add the sons of Israel away from, and we would call this the Red Sea. I don't know why I misspelled it. Now, to be fair, in some translations, it is the Reed Sea. So maybe that's what I was thinking, or maybe I just have dyslexia. Moses took the sons of Israel away from the Red Sea and led them into, we would say, the wilderness of Shur. And that's pretty smoothed out. Let's do at least one more. All right. Let's read 19. Si o Christos o ios tu evlogitu. Si o Christos o ios tu evlogitu. All right. Si is you. E is are. You are. And we're not declining the verbs yet, so that's past us. And we have O Christos. O Christos. And O Christos is a nominative, so this is tricky because now we have two nominatives. C is a nominative, you. And you are o Christos is another nominative. And if you remember, we talked about this briefly, that there's a predicate nominative. If you have two nominatives and they're combined by a to be, one nominative is going to be the predicate nominative. So you would have a nominative is another nominative, and that's a structure. And that's what we have here. So C is the subject of the sentence, is another nominative. So you are the Christ. That's literally what's saying. You are the Christ. All right. And then he has o ios. If you look at that, you're thinking of the lexical form is oios. This is another nominative. So we have two nominatives. And so we've got three nominatives. You could be thinking, wow, there's three subjects of the sentence if you're not paying attention or if you're not familiar. And so we got to explain a little bit. So there's something called apposition. And that means if you have multiple of the same case, so like you have two accusatives or you have two nominatives, you could just be renaming the first one. So, for example, you could say, you are the Christ, the Son. You are the Christ, the Son, the Great, the Awesome. And you would just keep adding nominatives to reword or to give more detail to what the first nominative is. And so that's what's happening here. It's called apposition, and you're just renaming the first one. So you are the Christ, the Son. And so you could do you, Jesus, are the Christ, the Son, the Great One, whatever. So you, Jesus would be an apposition to you. So you could do that. So that's what's happening here is you have one nominative, C, which is the subject of the sentence, E is the verb, and then you have o Christos, which is a predicate nominative. It's the noun on the predicate side, right? It's the other side of the to be word. So you are the Christ. This is telling us about who you are. Oios is renaming Christos. You are the Son. And then you've got tu evlogitu. Tu evlogitu. We don't know what evlogitu means, but it means blessed. And because it's in the genitive, we would translate it as of. And notice it's capitalized here. He's giving us a hint. Oh, and I almost missed this, but you've got this at the end, which is not a colon. It is a question mark. All right. So now that we know it's a question mark, we can go back and clean this thing up. So you wouldn't say, you are the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? No, we would ask, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? And we might even add the Blessed One, just to be absolutely clear. So notice we're adding words just to make this a little smoother. You can do that. You can make translation decisions like that. How strict do I want to be to stick to the original Greek? You'll find when you're doing really basic Greek, this Greek that's in here right now, it's designed, he's picking examples that really mimic English. So you don't have to do this very much where you're adding words and moving things around. But when you get to real Greek, you start reading the New Testament, it's almost impossible. In fact, it is impossible to stick with the word order and to really go word for word. You have to do sentence by sentence. And so you'll find yourself adding words to just make more sense in English. I think that makes a lot of sense. Some people don't like that. They want to stay as close to the Greek as possible. You do you. But to me, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? That makes a lot of sense to me, and I like it. Well, guys, I hope that's enough to get you started. I hope you're doing well. I wish you good luck and Godspeed. Until next time.